Hi everyone, I'm Senya Lubisich, your history instructor. And today we're going to start into our second unit in History 103, and it's the one that I think most students find the most fun because we get to talk about empires. In the first unit of the class, we had a lot of debate and discussion about what civilization means. When we get to empire, there's really no debate about what an empire is. For the most part, historians define empire as an entity with central authority, so the emperor, conquered territory, the land of the empire, and a centralized bureaucracy, which doesn't sound like a lot of fun. It should sound like the DMV, which it is. But for historians, that centralized bureaucracy is actually wonderful because we get to see how it affects a whole bunch of people over a large span of territory. So our first step in looking at empires are those early examples of empire and the common cultures that they express. They'll be bringing together people from different complex societies, different civilizations, and lumping them together. So we talk about that as being a common culture. Some of the characteristics of that common culture are technological advances. In Unit 1, I asked you to remember the pastoralist. That's the same here. Those are the people who are mobile and who are often carrying the new ideas between the settled civilizations. So technological advances are still an important part of that interplay between the large settled societies and now empires and their neighbors. There's also all sorts of administrative innovations that we're going to consider, and part of your job in this unit is contrasting the different ways that empires manage their administration. Rome, which is terrifically well known, is going to rely heavily on the military, but Han China is going to use instead a system of meritocracy in the Imperial Academy to run their administration. So being able to weigh the difference between those is important. You're going to have all sorts of cultural integration as different religions that had been very local or different practices that had been very regional are going to become larger and more inclusive. And you're going to see political integration. We'll talk about Sargon of Akkad, who's one of the first early empires, and the way that he's going to integrate the different systems to create an empire that's going to last beyond his lifetime. Going hand in hand with all of these territorial developments, we also have something called the axial age. If you've taken art history classes or philosophy classes, you might know this better as the classical age. In world history, we talk about it as the axial age because we want you to understand that it's taking place over a geographical axis spanning the Afro-Eurasian continent mass. So some of those axial age developments include second-generation societies, places that are going to have one round of civilization and territorial states that collapse and give rise to a new generation of states and empires. The axial age is also going to be defined by lots of developments in philosophy, in worldviews, in religious thought. And these will be ideas that will survive and persist to the present. And one of the key parts to remember is that there's generally a central axis and then peripheral complexity. So again, this is where those pastoralists are important to keep in mind. These are the people who are interacting on the fringe. And it may seem silly that I keep repeating them, but these are also the people that we tend to forget in history. We tend not to look at the contributions of pastoralists because oftentimes they often lack writing. So the way we tend to know about them is the way that they interact with those settled states, but keeping them in view is important. And then, of course, as we talk about empires, we will get to those large-scale empires and the legacies that they leave behind. And so in this, the classic comparison is going to be between the Roman Empire and Han China. But some of the great contributions of these large-scale empires, these classical empires, or now that you're in world history, axial empires, is that they do help develop these long-distance trade networks. They also contribute to standardized laws, language, and religion, things that will endure beyond their own existence. And they will have terrific political, economic, and social influence at the time of their existence and beyond. So these are truly the empires that live both in history and in popular memory. So by the time we get through Unit 2, hopefully you'll have an understanding that between 500 BCE and 500 CE, the complexity of human interactions has continued to increase. That you're seeing more global networks that are beginning to expand. You're seeing more areas incorporated into this engagement and interaction. That the bureaucratic systems, that unfun part of our definition of empire, really are creating connections that are going to endure even after the empires themselves have collapsed. So on to Unit 2.